Alrighty, a quick video here for y'all, just talking about Nic Claxton. We got to give him his props. He went and got his big contract and everything. I'm sure this one doesn't get quite as many views, but you know what? We're going to talk about it anyway because the Nets are kind of entering this new phase, and I want to give a shout out to all the Nets fans out there. You guys have been through a really weird period, haven't you? Where it all kind of started back when you got KG, Paul Pierce, and all them people, right? And you brought all them in, didn't quite work out. You said, damn, all right, we gave up all of our assets. We're going into a rebuild. And you started to do this really smart thing that a lot of people do nowadays where it's like, hey, just give us all your worst contracts and a draft pick, and that's how we'll get ourselves out of this rut. And they did it, and they built this interesting little team with like D'Lo and like Spencer Dinwiddie, right? And Nic Claxton kind of was like coming on like a little bit at that point, right? And so you're like, okay, yeah, like you got a little bit of something going on here. And then you kind of like mortgaged all of it so that you could go get like KD, Kyrie, James Harden, all them boys. Now it's Ben Simmons. And like, I get it, right? Like you saw an opportunity to strike, you went and did it. Very, very cool at the end of the day. That team just didn't end up working out. You were this close to going to like the finals the one time or whatever, but KD just had a big too big of a foot, and then you kind of crashed back down to earth. Tried to do a little bit of staying afloat and everything, you know, like the owners and everything wanted to stay afloat. Then you trade Mikal Bridges yesterday. You're in full rebuild mode, and you did a pretty good job. You got a hell of a lot of picks, and you went and got some of your own picks back from Houston right afterwards, and that left a lot of questions. Like, okay, what happens to Cam Johnson now? Dennis Schroeder, are they bringing Nic Claxton back? Well, they are on a 4-year, $100 million contract. Now, a little bit about Nic Claxton. Offensive game, not really much to be desired. Mostly just run, jump, and dunk kind of guy. Defensively, one of the better defensive players you'll find. Can really guard 1 through 5. He can switch onto just about anybody. Plays really good perimeter defense. I'd actually compare him a lot to like an Alex Sarr that you have coming into the draft. I'm recording this after the draft and stuff. If you guys watched my video that just went up and everything, that's really cool. So I'm up late tonight. If I seem a little delirious, that's why I've been busy today, to say the least. But no, this is I think it's an interesting move. It's more so a shitty thing for like other teams that were banking on Nic Claxton being available. The center market just kind of sucks this offseason, and Nic Claxton was at the top of the list. And so now you're kind of just like, oh, well, what are we going to do now, right? Memphis Grizzlies. Well, the answer was take Zach Edey, and it didn't work out well for Memphis in that light. No, there was a lot of rumors about them doing some things, and they struck out on like Bridges, Claxton, like just about everybody, right? So that's kind of unfortunate. But what does this mean for Brooklyn? It doesn't really mean a ton because they're going to be probably bad for the years to come and everything as they try to get some young players in, try to build up the right way. You still have a couple interesting players on the team, like I mentioned right now, and Claxton is probably just a fine piece to have around. Like, let's say you go get like a young point guard or center, or a young center, like a young point guard or shooting guard next year, and you have a really high draft pick or something like that, right? Coming in for those young guards, it can be really, really hard. You got a guy like Nic Claxton that's already established at center. It can make their job a lot easier because they might just be throwing a couple lobs that get them some easy assists and kind of get them in the flow of the game. They know that they can switch early on in their career because they've got Claxton with them, and they know the rim's protected and things like that. So I think it's a smart move to keep him and just give him that money. Who else are you going to pay at this point? Ben Simmons is the last year of his contract, I believe. So I think it makes a lot of sense in that way. Obviously, we hope that Brooklyn can get out of the rut sooner rather than later or whatever, but it's probably just about time that they just really tear things down really slowly and work their way back up. I don't think it needs to be anything more complicated than that, but it's nice that they have all those draft picks left. I'll be curious to see kind of what they do in the offseason. They don't have a draft pick this year, which isn't a big deal. Like, there's really no need. It's not that great of a class. At the end of the day, there was nobody that was going to change your franchise, and that's what you're kind of waiting for. But now you have all these picks to where you can start to look around and be like, okay, and they're probably going to collect some more off of guys like Cam Johnson and Schroeder. Like I said, those are valuable players at the end of the day. So if you can acquire some more, then all of a sudden, maybe you control your destiny next year in a pretty loaded class. Maybe you're trying to get a Cooper Flag or a Dylan Harper or something like that, right? And all of a sudden you're like, okay, like, yeah, we got us a guy and we got a center that can play with them. But I'll be curious to see what kind of role Nic Claxton takes on. I mean, he's more than likely going to be the best player on this team next year, I would imagine. But maybe him and Ben Simmons play together and they just do all the cool pick and roll stuff you can imagine, which I think could be kind of interesting. But I just hope Ben Simmons gets to play this year, man. Like, I was such a big Ben Simmons fan. I loved watching Ben Simmons play. And then all y'all on the internet bullied him. All of y'all. I'm talking to all of y'all. All y'all bullied him off the face of the earth, and with basketball and injuries as well, obviously. But no, that's just my 2 cents on the Nic Claxton thing. I wanted to make sure I covered it and everything. I don't really have any other analysis outside of that, but I think it's a smart move for the future as well as the present. So good on them, and shout out Nic Claxton for getting $100 million. Make sure you guys like, subscribe, and comment. Try to keep the comments clean for me, otherwise I'm just going to hide you. It's really that plain and simple. But yeah, thanks so much as always. I got to record another video. We'll talk to you guys later. Bye.